So welcome everybody to our third annual National Girlfriends Networking Day. I love this tweet. We were watching our Twitter feed, and I hope you'll all participate in connecting us all around the country using the hashtag NGN Day. But a woman named Joya tweeted this morning, "It's not enough to take our daughters to work, teach our daughters to network," which I love. You're hired, we're hiring you for a brand new job. So nice to see so many familiar faces, and I can't think of a better time to have this event after Jill Abramson was fired for no other good reason than her being a woman. After the igniting of Yes All Women hashtag, there's a spirit that there is something that needs to be done, and that is the power of uniting women. And that's what this event is all about. 95 years ago today, on June 4th, 1919, Congress approved women's right to vote. And it's not until 2011 that, for the first time, more women than men graduated college. But once we're in the workforce, the career trajectory and the pay scale for women is still vastly different than it is for men. And to us, the major reason for that is that women don't have the natural networks and connections that are a birthright for men. And this event is to raise consciousness about this once a year and help us make that situation better. So the new agenda was founded in 2008 under the notion of simply this, that if women would just support other women, everything else would take care of itself. And we are a true believer. And our organization, I'm proud to say, 6 years later, we walk the walk of diversity and inclusion uniquely in this country. The new agenda, if you look at all our events, you will see all women included, all types of women, and we are very proud, and that is the way to go. Equality is when all women are equal to one another as well. So today, we have over 20 events around the country with thousands of women attending. We have tens of thousands of women watching this event streamed. We have a huge component of college women, and we've done many, many college events this year. We're very pleased at the engagement with college and millennial women. And so I want to leave you with this until we open with the panelists. Be brave, be bold, and celebrate your self-interests. The self-interest comes from speaking at events this year, and that women are so afraid to take on things and have it be okay for them to have self-interest. So I'm here to tell you today that not only is that okay, that it's imperative, that too often as women we are selfless. And before we get to the panel, I just want to read a quote from one of my sheroes, Maya Angelou. "Each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women." So please remember that. So as we open up, remember on Twitter, hashtag NGN Day, we're going to be taking your questions and posing them to the panelists, our wonderful panelists. You all have the panelists' bios printed out. So in order to keep the event crisp, I'm going to open up now, and our panelists are going to go through their own career trajectory, tell you about their experience with building connections and taking risks. So I'm going to open with Christine Romans. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you. I am an anchor and reporter at CNN, and I've been there since 1999. And usually when I speak, 90 seconds later, someone says, "Wrap." So I'm delighted to talk to you for longer than 90 seconds and really hopefully have a conversation with you about where you want to be and where I have been. At the beginning, middle, or end of every job process I've ever had since I got out of college was a woman networking for me, or a network that I took advantage of. Right out of, in college, in fact, an alum came back and she gave a speech, much like this, about the importance of networking and the importance of helping people along the way. I got her card, called her when I graduated, she got me a job. At that place, I had an editor who was a fantastic mentor. When she moved someplace else, she brought me along with her. Then when I went into television, at the other end was an editor who had seen what she thought. I was a print reporter. She saw in me something she thought could be on television. She trained me, against actually the better wishes of some of the other editors, trained me, got me on television, and that's how I got on my career trajectory on television. Then when I went to CNN, it was back to the first woman again, who then had been working at CNN, I sent her an email, and she said, come in, and boom, I was hired there. So I never have sent a resume to someone, sight unseen, dear sir, or dear ma'am, my name is, and this is what I do. There's been a woman at every one of those junctures for me. Another thing that's, I think, unique about my career is that I didn't have a 3, a 5, or a 10-year plan. I didn't have one really in college other than graduating, so my parents would kill me. 4 years, get out. I didn't have a 3 or 5-year plan. When there was a fork in the road, to quote Yogi Berra, I took it. I just would go. And that was kind of a false bravery, I think, on my part, because I'm a very cautious person by nature. I'm a business reporter, so I'm very numbers-oriented, very cautious. But I would take that risk. And again, there was usually a woman on the other side of that telling me, you should try this, you should do this. And it's been a wonderful, fun journey. Right now, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I do the morning news on CNN from 4 to 6 a.m., the show that's called Early Start. And I also do the business program called Your Money, which is on Saturdays Eastern Time at 2 p.m. And I cover money and business. And guess what? This week, my big story was record high number of women running Fortune 500 companies. 23 out of 500. So I always report these with a big asterisk. Yes, it's a record. It's only 23. So it's been interesting covering money, business, finance, banking over the past 15 years. It's a time when women have started to really make inroads in these places and have started to help and nurture each other. But it is stark how at the very tops of corporate, the corporate ladder, women are just starting to really bang on the door there. So it's been very fun and interesting to write and to report about finance, economy, diplomacy. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, for example, the first time many of these barriers have been broken, and it's been delightful to have women all along the way in each one of my career paths. And because I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I may be unable to understand. You may not be able to understand me in another 2 minutes. So this is my midnight.
Dinner's afterwards.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sarinya Srisakul. I'm the first and only woman firefighter of Asian descent in New York City. And I'm thank you very much. I'm also the president of the United Women Firefighters. So yesterday was a big day for us. 4 women graduated from Fire Academy, and that increased our numbers to 41 women. And like you were saying, it's a record for us. We're very happy for 41 women out of 10,500 members. The reason why 41 is significant for us is because we haven't seen those numbers since 1982. So it took the fire department 32 years to increase their numbers back up to what we had in 1982. And the work that I do as president of my group, we try as much as we can to change that fact. The 4 women graduating yesterday is a testament to the changing environment that we have in the fire department. When I look back to 11 years ago, I've been a firefighter for 9 years. I work in the East Village. 9 years ago, when I, was deciding to become a firefighter, I would never dream that I would be at the helm of my organization at this historic moment. And I would never dream that we would reach 41 again, sadly enough. But here I am, and I'm very excited. The number one reason why women have had issues coming into the fire department are the physical aspects of my job. And, it is a very physically tasking job. My gear weighs 75 pounds. With all the tools I have to carry, it could be upwards of 125 pounds. I have to climb stairs. I have to carry all that heavy equipment upstairs. Then I have to operate. So, the physical testing to get into the fire department is rigorous. The requirements in Fire Academy are very rigorous. And, when I first started, it wasn't like I was like some athletic Adonis. When I first started, I smoked, I drank, walking up the subway stairs, I got winded, I wasn't like, some college star athlete or anything like that. But when I first met the women firefighters, and this is where the networking piece comes in, the women from the United Women Firefighters, I saw that women every shape and size could do this job. And they offered a training program, and I was just completely dedicated to it. When I first started, I was terrible. I couldn't do anything. You know, when I first started training, I would run on the track at midnight because I was so embarrassed at how out of shape I was. I couldn't run a mile without stopping. I couldn't do all the tasks that we had at training. I couldn't do any of that stuff. But, you know, one thing that people say about firefighters is that it's a calling. And it really, truly was a calling for me. When I, you know, thought about becoming a firefighter, when I learned that women could become firefighters, I was like, that's it. This is what I want to do for my life. Like, I want to be of service to my community. I want to be the first Asian woman firefighter in New York City. This is what I want. And it became kind of this like obsession for me. I became anything fire department related, I consumed. Anything fitness related, I learned how to do it. And what I did was just practice obsessively until, you know, my test day, I was one of 13 women who got 100 on the exam. 13 out of 900 women. So, and I was proud to become one of the few women who could be part of this club of being a woman firefighter in New York City. Now, with the women who graduated yesterday, it's my pleasure to pay it forward and see that the women who I've trained, I was a product of this training program, now I run it. And to see them graduate, to see our numbers change, to see the culture of the fire department change, all the hard work that we've done for every single woman who's gotten on, it's worth it. And so I want to be here today without the women before me. The women behind me want to be here yesterday graduating without me and my other members of my organization. And, you know, it's just so important that the women, we all stick together because, you know, when I started, I had so many men, my own father telling me that I'm going to fail at this quest. You know, you have so much negativity coming after you by being a woman in charge, by doing whatever you want to do for yourself. But I tell my candidates, that's all noise. You do what you have to do. We're here to support each other. Align yourself with women who have the same goals as you and the women who preceded you, who paved the way for you, and don't take that for granted. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tammy Jones, and I'm the managing principal and president of Basis Investment Group. And I launched the company. Basis, I'll tell you a little bit about, just 2 seconds, is a commercial real estate investment platform. We focus on debt and equity investments. I launched the company in 2009, and since inception, I'm proud and humbled to say that we've done $2 billion in investments, 160 transactions in 41 states. Basis is a minority and women-owned business, which I'm very proud of, and I've been told that we're one of the few, if not the only, companies, commercial real estate investment companies that are owned and led by an African-American woman. And if that is the case, we certainly have a lot of work to do in my industry. And as Sarinya and I were talking about before the discussion, we're both in you know, white male-dominated businesses, and it's been very difficult. So prior to Basis, I held senior positions at Equitable Real Estate, and that's where I started my commercial real estate career, GMAC Commercial Mortgage, and the Case Depot at one of their subsidiaries in the States. So I was on an institutional track. That's my professional bio, and I tell investors that. But you guys are my girlfriends, right? Today is National, you know, Girlfriends Networking Day, and so I want to take the opportunity to get a little bit more upfront, close, and personal with all of you and the ladies online, and talk about my personal story. So, I grew up in inner city Queens, in South Jamaica, Queens. I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people, my parents and 6 siblings. 5 siblings, including me. We grew up very poor. My dad, some years, made $8,000 a year. I saw a lot of pain, a lot of violence, drugs, prostitution, you name it, I saw it. But in my heart, and because of my parents and some of the ideals that they put into me, I knew that the way to make it out of the hood in my neighborhood was to get an education to change my circumstance. Now, my father only had an 8th grade education. He was a jazz musician. I'm very proud of him, a brilliant man. And he taught me about passion and being passionate about, what you love to do. So I learned that. My mom was focused on education. And so somehow and somewhere along the way, by the grace of God, I guess I was a little smart, had a really, like Christine, math-focused and excelled in math and numbers. Somehow, through connections and through a woman that helped me, who was a dean at Cornell University, I got into Cornell. Don't know how, had no money to pay for it. I was like a fish out of water. I hadn't really left New York City. Maybe gone to Manhattan from Queens, but that was about it. So it was hard. And initially things were okay. But then as my school career went on, I did well. Life changed dramatically for me. I got pregnant at 19. And, I was scared. I was a little bit ashamed. There weren't a lot of people back then. I'm older than people say I look, so this is going on, more than 25 years ago. There weren't too many women walking around an Ivy League institution with a belly. So that was hard. So I decided to have my child. I got married. But I faced the risk of maybe not graduating from Cornell because there were, so many voices that were telling me I couldn't do it. But I faced it. I refused to listen to the inner voice and any other voice that told me I couldn't do it. And I graduated in 4 years with my class, and I was able to walk across the graduation ceremony stage with my 1-year-old, with my BA in economics.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you that that was my first networking experience. I had to have a support system, right, to do that. It wasn't just me. I had the support of my family, my friends who took shifts watching my son, the faculty and the professors who let me sneak in the back so I could come to class with my child, the random lady that I met at the grocery store who I made a connection with who saw something in me and wanted to help me. Those people, that was my network. And so no matter where you are, how young you are, you have a network. You just have to learn how to capitalize with that. And that was lesson 1. And lesson 2 for me was, there are different paths to success, ladies. And it's, if your life takes a circuitous turn or a twist that may knock you down, you get back up and you face it. And you can use your challenges to your advantage. And I was able to do that when I interviewed for the jobs at Cornell, post-Cornell. I talked about how I was different from other Cornell students and how I was a multitasker. I mean, I ran a household and I was committed and I was hardworking. And so I had 7 or 8 job interviews and I got all 7 or 8. Thank you. And I don't say that to brag, nor am I advocating having a baby in college. I have a 20-year-old now. But I am saying that you can do it and that it's important to know the strength that you have, within yourself, and that at the end of the day, we're not defined by our past. I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing, but it really, how you're defined is how you handle your challenges. That is the demonstration of your true character. Thank you.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I think what makes it so significant for me to be here today, I'm Gretchen Carlson, I work at Fox News right next door, is that we all have different stories, and it really embodies the whole message of women from all different walks of life and all different levels of success. And I'm just honored to be on the stage today. I've known Amy for the last 3 years, had her on my show before when I used to do Fox and Friends in the morning, and I had Christine's schedule for 7 years, and now I do my own show at 2 o'clock, so please excuse me if I do have to leave a slight bit early to go back over and do live TV in just a moment. But once again, honored to be here. I really want to talk a little bit about the networking, but also the risks that I believe are so important for women to take, because oftentimes women, as we learned from Sheryl Sandberg's book, and we'll learn from the book that I'm writing right now as well, that sometimes we sit in the background and we think, well, we're not going to be the ones to raise our hand, we're not going to be the ones to sit in the front row, but somehow we've got to find the courage to be able to do that because it's so important. And to your point about passion, I was fortunate enough to have that taught to me at a young age as well. And
values, and to work hard. And I think that those are the most important characteristics that you can carry through in your life, no matter what goal is in front of you. So very quickly, I grew up a very serious violinist. That was a huge risk in and of itself because most of the concert artists were men, and they were also of different, they weren't 100% Swedish, like I am. So that was a huge risk. It was going to be my career, and then I ultimately burned out. I ended up going to Stanford because I wanted to concentrate on my academics, and then I took the next huge risk in my life. Using my violin talent, I entered the Miss America pageant. It was 50% based on talent. I had never done anything like that before. Huge, huge risk. I was from the state of Minnesota, which wasn't known for having a lot of pageant winners. I ended up so fortunate to be able to have won that way back in 1989, which put me on a whole nother path for life. I ended up doing it that year, and then I went back to Stanford to complete my education because that was so important to me. And I was going to be a lawyer. And I took the LSATs and everything. And that experience of being Miss America really changed my perspective about TV and journalism and being in front of an audience and giving speeches to thousands of people on a daily basis. And through networking, through a woman who had helped me write speeches that year, she had been in television. And she helped me to get my very first job in Virginia in television, where I knew nothing about TV. So she was really instrumental in me taking that leap of faith, although I knew that my LSATs would be good for 5 years in case the TV thing did not work out. I was fortunate enough to have a female boss there who made me the political reporter, which again was a huge risk. Back then, 25 years ago, it was mostly men, white men, covering politics in Richmond, Virginia. I then went on to work in Cincinnati, and then I went to Cleveland, where I had an amazing female boss again. And she was the first person to put 2 females together on a local news team. It had never been done before. Another huge risk. Guess what? It didn't work. The other woman was from Cleveland. She was the hometown girl. I was not, and I was the one who was fired. A week after I got back from my honeymoon, and the male general manager told me in his office, "You'll be fine now that you're married." So I then was out of work, newly married, 31 years old, for a year. Very huge part in my life, having achieved certain goals and then to be left there wondering, what now? So luckily through networking, that same woman who was my boss in Cleveland ended up going to work for NBC in Dallas. And of course I kept a relationship with her. And I called her and I said, "Do you have anything for me?" And as it turned out, I ended up getting another job offer in Dallas from another station as well. So be careful, again, what you wish for, but I ended up going back and working for her. So networking got me back into the business. I was then in Dallas for a little under 2 years, and then I came to work for CBS News in New York in 2000, and I eventually did the Saturday morning show for them, as well as being a worldwide correspondent for CBS News. And 8 years ago, 9 almost, Fox News gave me the opportunity to come and do a morning show 5 days a week. And so that is sort of my career trajectory. Along the way, though, helping other women has always been a huge part of who I am, because I got help. My assistant, who's sitting right down here, was an intern for me at Fox and Friends. And we built a great relationship because I believe it's so important to take young people and tell them what the world is all about and give them opportunity. She's now working for me because of that relationship. But I do this with all other women who approach me. I say I have an open door. I think it's incredibly important to be open and to give back. The last little story is that one woman came to me 2 years ago. She said, "I really want to be on TV." She was a lawyer. She had also competed in the Miss America pageant. I got her in the door. She got on some of the internet shows at Fox. Before you know it, she was on Bill O'Reilly's show in prime time. And she just sent me an email yesterday, after just 2.5 years of TV legal experience, that she now has her own judge show that will debut on national TV in the fall. So that is why I feel it's so important to give back and for women to help each other. Amen. And I have to say, there's nothing more satisfying. I have chorus here in the audience and helping other women. And those of you who are here in college, we have a huge turnout of college women. Please take my card on the way out. If you're at other events, please find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever.
I have scores of mentees, and I would love to help you all out and take you to lunch, take you to dinner. I'm a great eater. Let's get together. We can help you all out. And you know, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing a woman that you have given some career advice to find her way. There's nothing better than that. So with that, and speaking of connections, for those of you who participated in our Twitter party with Christine, one thing that you mentioned that was like, wow, and since I'm a math nerd as well and into metrics, is it true that 80% of jobs come through connections?
It's called the hidden jobs market. There's a jobs market you see, and then there's all these other jobs that either haven't been posted or it's bosses who want to fill something but haven't posted it yet. 80%, this hidden job market is 80% of the jobs, and those are people giving jobs to people they know or people who know people who know people they know. Imagine if you're a boss. And I cover the labor market. I've covered the labor market for 20 years. I love the jobs market of this country, and I love learning about what makes it tick. The most dynamic jobs market in the world. But from our perspective, if you're a boss, you're hiring someone to solve a problem for you. You don't want 3,000 resumes that all look the same of people you don't know who they are. You say to your friend, you know, I think I'm going to need to fill this job. Do you have anybody in mind? Or you think of the people you know who have that ability to solve your problem for you, and that's who you tap for the job. 80% positions filled by network, by connections, this hidden jobs market that is not a posting. It's changed a lot. It really has changed a lot. But I have to say that I've never had a job from answering a job wanted ad or calling an HR person or using a recruiter. It's been through, has it you too?
Yes,
It's
always
been
through
through
somebody I knew.
And
Summer school, summer house buddy,
and back
college
to
buddy.
Gretchen's point about relationships, you keep all of your relationships open. Actually, that sounds very dirty. I don't I mean, keep your relationships alive. You never know when that person's going to come back to you, and you're going to be hiring, and you will someday. You'll be hiring, and you're going to need that person, or vice versa. Those relationships should always be kept open.
Thank you so much. And keep the questions coming. We're getting all your questions from #NGNDay. So I'm going to post this, whoever wants to pick it up, because this is a wide open one. What is the best advice you have ever been given?
Don't take advice you don't like.
Okay.
My dad always said to me, it sounds so simplistic, but I think about it every day, which is no matter how hard you try, you're never going to please everybody.
Yes.
And I've certainly lived that life now. Depending on where you work, I mean, you know, there's the blogs and the internet and everything, there's so much hate speech going on. So anyway, it's very, very true. Trust me, I do my best to try and get everyone to like me because I want that, but you're never going to please everybody. So don't waste your
Cheers.
time.
I've given up on that years
I
ago.
have one.
Yes, please.
Learn, earn, and return. And I think we're always learning, and hopefully, you know, for those of us who are trying to make money, we're always earning, but the return part has been something that I've been more recently focused on because I have my head in the ground with the kids and work, but learn, earn, and return.
And earn comes before return. You have to be economically empowered yourself before you give back.
Always speak your truth. So, you know, never do anything in your career, in your life that, goes against your, like, moral ethics. So just always be true to yourself.
I'll explain mine a little bit, and I see you in the front row. Well, I have 3 little babies, and I wrote 2 books in 5 years, and everyone was telling me what to do. And people were telling me, you know, you should do this with your baby, you shouldn't do this, you should do this, you should get a nanny, you should, and I said, I'm not taking anybody's advice. I'm the driver of this train, and I'm going to drive it.
Good for you.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sarinya, I've got one for you from Twitter. What are your views on the stance that women should be subject to less of a physical test than men?
I disagree with that because we do, in the fire department, we do the same job as the guys do. But I do believe in having physical testing that is reflective of what we do at work. So,
Yes.
fair testing.
Okay, Tammy, one for you. Do you face any specific obstacles at this current point in your career now that you have reached a level of success?
That's a great question. I think think that we're always evolving, and I don't care what career you're in, you're always going to face challenges. And I'm in a male-dominated industry, predominantly white male industry, and there aren't too many women at the table, at the conferences. So yes, I sometimes think that it's important, depending on the audience, to know your audience and to not, the book was lean in, lean forward, to be able to always have a view. And so when I face those challenges in those circumstances where maybe in the good old boy commercial real estate network where folks aren't taking me seriously, you have to turn it up a little bit, but you also have to learn, know your audience and learn to, listen and to make your point and so people can receive it. And that's a really important lesson I had to learn.
Great. Just a reminder, we'd love to see your pictures on the Twitter feed of your event. If you could tweet those to us, and we're also taking your questions. So keep them coming at NGN Day, and tell us what you like hearing about, what stands out in your mind that you would want other women not at events to be hearing. Okay, so this one I'm going to throw up, and whoever wants to take it. Was Jill Abramson's firing sexist, and are women moving backwards? Who wants to take that hot potato? Or pieces of it? Don't all jump at once. I'm going to say yes, it was sexist.
Yeah,
but I'm
I
going to
agree
let
with
you.
From what I've read, because I don't know the whole story and situation, I want to be careful. It seems like it was sexist to me. I think, it's depending on how, and I've read a lot of different articles about it to try to, I thought we would have the topic to try to balance it. And, I think that it's tricky. There were obviously issues, and there's two sides to every story. I hate to see a woman who seemed to turn around the company, and I look at that, as a business person, I look at what she did in her tenure there, and I find it questionable that she would be let go given that record. So without knowing all the details, I assess the facts that I do know, and it seems questionable.
I'll speak in a more general term that how her behavior was talked about in press accounts and things like that, and I think this happens to women, and certainly on the political scene. Hillary Clinton, Sarah Palin last time around, talking about how their demeanor is, how their personality was, instead of, you never hear that about a man.
We were talking
Absolutely,
about that.
absolutely.
You hear about a man well, let's face it, when a man does something that is great as far as leading an organization, we call that person a leader. When a woman does the same thing, sometimes we call her a word that begins with B.
That's right.
And it's usually determined by, usually a woman's demeanor is determined by how she looks and whether or not she was nice. As opposed to whether or not she actually got the job done and did all the same qualities, had all the same qualities as the man. So we have a lot of work to still do in the perception, and that really was eye-opening for me in the last election cycle, when no matter what side of the fence you were on politically, Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton couldn't be more different as people, and they were both maligned for simply being a woman, and what they wore and how their hair looked and what they said, and they weren't smart, or they were, and it was unbelievable for me to see. But at the same time, it was great for my kids to see, and especially my daughter, to see these women they want to be the most powerful person in the world, which was wonderful, and I hope I can show her that again. But at the same time, I had to explain to her why they were talking about her hair.
Right. What irritated me was all the attention to the expensive clothes that Sarah Palin had, and I thought, why doesn't anybody talk about how much an Armani suit costs? The dark blue Armani suit that every one of these candidates has, probably wheeled in on a rolling cart whenever they show up. And Sarah Palin just had a baby. Of course she has a lot of different clothes because she's changing shape every single day. She's on the campaign trail with a 4-month-old baby. That bothered me a lot too. It bothered me a lot.
I think the step to making that better for all of us and for our daughters is to be aware. Awareness, that once you look at the way Jill Abramson was defined, as Gretchen talked about, she's defined as pushy, and yet the guy now in her slot punches holes through walls, and that's somehow acceptable. But go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted you to expand on that
Why don't you stand up too so people can hear? Go ahead.
I wanted you to expand on this point about the B word in your own personal careers and how you get around being a strong leader as a woman in multiple male-dominated fields.
So the question was the B word and how you get around being a woman in a male-dominated field.
I just always knew going into every job that I had that I was going to have to work harder, number one. And number two, that I made sure that I ended up being the best possible person doing that job in each different scenario. So for me, it always comes back to incredibly hard work. Now, as to how other people are going to perceive you, imagine being a person like that and coming to a bunch of new jobs and being a former Miss America. Imagine what kinds of things they call. They call you more than just that B word. They also call you bimbo. And there's 2 B words. So I knew what the pattern was going to be over time. And so I knew that all this scuttlebutt would be going on before I got to my new city. And I knew that I'd have to work harder than any other man and for sure any other woman in that environment. I think hard work is the first way to try and detract from that. But I don't know if that changes the perception that you might have in a meeting setting. You know, it's just, I think it's evolutionary. I'm hoping that my son, by the way, I work because I think it's more important for my son to see me work than my daughter to see me work. Because I think it's changing the men's perceptions in younger generations that change it for all the rest of us.
In terms of the B word, you're just going to get called that and in a male-dominated field, and it's something that you just have to accept.
But you don't have to accept internally.
No,
you can just
internally,
say this is
absolutely.
part of it,
Yeah.
but I don't have to take it in.
Absolutely, but you will be called every name in the book in a male-dominated field. It just goes with the territory. But, you know, they're not my friends if they call me that. Not every guy's going to call you that. And you will have a spotlight on you. You will, every move you make will be scrutinized. But, you know, you have to be the best that you can be. And if you want to do whatever it is, you just have to throw yourself into that work, no matter what you do. But you just have to accept that, you know, as long as you are happy with yourself and you are happy with the work that you do, that it's, like I said before, it's just noise. They just want to detract you from being the best you that you can be.
Okay, I have a question coming from Phoenix. Does being attractive in your field help or hinder?
Yes.
It really depends. I mean, in television, it's kind of in television, it's a very, it's an interesting place to work. But I don't know. I think sometimes, just like in grade school, it's something that can draw the attention of people. But then you have to prove it. You have to prove that you're smarter than everyone else. You have to prove that you're a harder worker. And I think there's a real common denominator here. You have to work harder. I told you I would look at these labor market statistics. You know, there's 3 people who want a job for every job that's open in America. If you think about that, look around yourself. You have to beat out 2 other people. You have to be better, smarter, work harder, more energetic than 2 other people around you. So I think the first thing people see is the way you look. And then after that, you have to prove it.
I agree. I think it's about perception. I mean, we all, first impressions are very important, and we all assess people whether we want to admit it or not. And I do think that, you know, once you get in the door, maybe if someone's attractive or looks differently, you will remember them. But whatever, it's the substance behind the person. The physicality is one thing, but it's just really trying to demonstrate that you deserve to have a seat at the table and you have the knowledge. And people will generally, if you can demonstrate your value, which I believe is part of networking, is building relationships and proving to folks that you have value, that hopefully starts to not be as important.
Okay, so I have one final question that comes to us from our event in DC, which is, whoever wants to field this one, why in the U.S. are we still having this conversation in 2014? And a corollary that I'll add on, what do we do about it? What's your one bit of advice in closing that we can do about it as women and supporting other women on this day? What would you tell all the women listening into this event in college and professional, stay-at-home moms, whoever they are? Why are we having this conversation and what can we do to change it?
I mean, it's hard to give up power, right? So when you're at the top, the question before about Jill Abrams of, are we going backwards? I don't think we're going backwards. I think we're still struggling. And we're still continuing what was started before us, the generations before us. What can we do? I mean, it starts with little things like don't stab another woman in the back in your field, always help another woman, always support one another. And it starts today with this networking day. Moving forward, we have to stick together and just not listen to the noise that we hear, whether it's like a media spin or gossip or anything like that, but just, to keep that focus.
I'd go back to men, that I think it's never we're gonna be having this conversation still in 2024 and 2034, unless we can change the perception of the young men coming up. And that is wide-ranging from helping women in the workplace with regard to having children, because that's not going to change. So childcare and flexible work schedules. And those things are not going to be honored in the workplace if a man doesn't understand that those are important. Right? So I think, again, I work for both of my kids to see a good role model, but I work specifically for my son to be able to see that this is what I hope he'll honor when he grows up as well.
I want a piece of advice for anyone listening, especially if you're just starting out in the working world, is negotiate for yourself. I have an anecdote in my book where a woman had worked her nose to the grindstone. She was doing such a good job. She really was pulling in good money for her company, negotiating great deals, and her boss brought her in and said, Amy, you're going to have to ask for a raise. And she said, why? I said, how do we know that you're getting the best deal for us if you don't even try to get the best deal for yourself? And she hadn't thought about that, asked all of her friends, and none of them had gone in and asked for a raise or said, here are the 5 things that I've done that have been great, that made you money over the past 6 months. I think I need another job. Her boss told her, every guy comes in here once a year and tells us what they're worth. You've never told us what you're worth, and my board is concerned that you're not a good negotiator. And I just hope that every woman thinks you've got to negotiate on behalf of yourself, know what you're worth, and make sure that everybody in the workforce knows you know what you're worth. And when you ask for a salary, make the last number 3, because you end with a smile on your face. And if they say, why did you say 53? Say, because I ended with smiling. And that's a really good icebreaker.
I think I also want to quote, we share the same share, Amy, Maya Angelou. And I always think about this one quote. It's, I learned that people will not remember what you said. They may not even remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. Mm-hmm. And I share that. I think it's enough said. Just when you're going through your careers and building your connections, and whether they're men, women, whoever, because I think, it's on both sides that you have to build those networks. Just remember to have an impact and to remember to make someone feel good, remember you, and it really matters. It's really extremely important.
Great. Well, I'm going to close out with what's next. So we'd like you all to remain part of the conversation with us during the year, and here's how. Please find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, LinkedIn. We even have an Instagram page now. We have a very active blog, and it's a great place, especially for you young women in the audience and around the country, to have your voice be heard. If something really is pissing you off, please write about it, because it's probably pissing off a lot of other people. We also do events around the country during the year, and if we haven't spoken at your college or at your workplace, we would love to in the coming year. All of our events are online. You can see what we're doing on our website. We also have something called the Mentor Exchange, and Gretchen was actually a pioneer mentor when we launched it. It's the mentorexchange.org. You can find it on our website. And actually her mentee, who is my niece who just graduated from Harvard, is going on to work at Fox News. So this stuff does actually work. Find it at the mentorexchange.org. And I want to just now give my grateful list, because this event, putting it together, starts when I wake up on January 1 and I think, oh my God, NGN Day is June 4th. So I have 4 big thank yous. Tara for getting us this space, Kelly Watson at KPMG, Joan Amble, who is here, and my friend Marnie, who has been here throughout, helping me with everything. I would like to thank all of you. Now, on the panel, Christine is about to have dinner after this. She wakes up at 2 a.m. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarinya. We love, as a gay woman, I love a woman in uniform. Yeah. Tammy, I heard speak at Cornell. We're on the President's Council of Cornell Women together, and after she spoke, I literally ran up to her and said, what are you doing June 4th? You have to tell your story. It is so inspirational. And Gretchen Carlson, who has been an ally of our organization from the start, and who participated 2 years ago when we had our first National Girlfriends Networking Day. Joan was there too. There were 20 of us. We had a little conference room. We had maybe 100 people listening. And in 2 years, this thing has just mushroomed and grown, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I want you all to write down June 4th, 2015 for the next event. I want to thank all of my high school friends, my Cornell friends who got us events around the country, and all the rest of everybody who is attending. And I wrote down a quote that just popped into my head last night. I believe we all can change the world together. I truly believe it. I've been doing this for 6 years. I have seen the hundreds, the thousands of women that our organization has touched, helped, and changed, that we know that there's an organization that has your back, that believes in women supporting women. And I believe that we can all do this together, and in fact, it's the only way that it gets done, is that we stick together, yes, all women. So with this final note, I just want to tell you a little bit about the ambitious plans that the new agenda has for this coming year. Many of you have heard us speak at your schools or at your company, but we're also, through our foundation, taking on the work of sexual assault on campus. The new agenda was one of the first organizations to focus on what's going on in our high school, middle schools, and the epidemic on campuses of sexual assault. We're hoping to grow that out and work with colleges to help end this epidemic and bring further awareness to it. We also plan to do many more events on college campuses and many more for corporations and millennial women and professional women. So please reach out to us about being part of that change. We, in raising money for this event, which is largely free for everyone around the country, as our events year-round, we are at 80% of where we wanted to be in raising money. And so we would ask all of you, you all have a form about our organization, if you would consider donating what you can towards what we do. Almost all of us are volunteers, including myself. This is a passion for me, and my giving back, my earn now, what was the next one?
Earn, return.
Return, I'm on the return phase. So, but we can use your help. Our work is growing, our organization is expanding, and if you can help us out in any way, we would greatly appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to leave it to each event to turn off, say goodbye to us, and network within your event. Last year we heard of great things. We heard in DC that it ended up being a monthly get-together of networking. Whatever organically works at your organization, but make sure you write down June 4th, 2015. We will see you again, and next year we will be bigger and badder than ever. Yes, all women. Thank you very much.